So hello everyone. In this video, we will do the daily current affairs analysis of 16th December 2021. So the first topic which we will discuss is about the electoral reforms in India. So it is from GS paper 2 and topic is election related issues. So reforms in the election system are required because criminalization of politics, 40% of the Lok Sabha MPs and 23% of the Rajya Sabha MPs have a criminal record. Election outcomes are still influenced by money and brute force. In the 16th Lok Sabha elections, just 66% of eligible voters cast ballots. As a result, there is a pressing need to improve voter participation. In the 16th Lok Sabha, women make up only 11.3% of the population. The EC's role should be expanded and new powers should be granted. Appointments to the EC should be made in a more transparent manner. Political fundraising is a highly opaque and corrupt environment. Voter victimization via booth and constituency profiling. What changes are required? Set a limit on how much money political parties can spend, similar to the limit on how much money candidates can spend. Consider public funding of political parties rather than elections with an independent audit and a complete prohibition on private donations. Internal democracy and transparency in the workings of political parties should be enforced. Bring them under the RTI's jurisdiction. Create an independent national election fund to receive all tax-free donations. It could be run by the ECI or any other non-governmental organization, except the ECI's proposal to provide it legal authority to annual elections if credible evidence of money laundering is discovered. Persons accused of serious crimes who are facing criminal charges should be barred from running for office. Enable the ECI to deregister political parties that have not contested an election in 10 years but have received tax breaks. Declare paid news a corrupt activity under Section 100 of the Representation of Peoples Act and undue influence under Section 123(2) electoral offence punishable by 2 years in prison. The Election Commission of India (ECI) has made the following recommendations. Election commissioners, like chief election commissioners, should be guaranteed tenure security. The ECI should have the same contempt powers as the Indian courts. The institution's dignity is harmed by frequent disdain. The funding of political parties should be open and transparent. Under the Representation of Peoples Act 1951, ECI should be given the authority to create rules. The ECI should have the authority to audit political party accounts. Elections for the Legislative Assembly and Parliament should be held at the same time. If a candidate is facing criminal charges, he should be barred from running for office. Make paying for news a crime. Allowing a single candidate to run in multiple constituencies should be prohibited. So source of this news is The Hindu of 16th December 2021, page number 8. So the next topic in news is about the NIRF rankings. So it is from GS paper 2 and topic is education related issues. So the 6th edition's highlights include the top 3 higher education institutes in the country are IIT Madras, IISc Bangalore and IIT Bombay. Miranda House has won the list for best college for the second year in a row. IISc Bangalore was the top ranked university in the university category. What exactly is NIRF? It is the government's first attempt to rank the country's higher education institutions (HEIs). In 2015, it was first introduced. In the beginning, participation in the NIRF was voluntary, but in 2018 it became mandatory for all government run educational institutions. This year, around 6,000 institutions took part in the NIRF, which is nearly double the number from 2016. So, what is the order in which they are ranked? All educational institutions are evaluated on five characteristics in order to be ranked: teaching, learning, and resources, research and professional practices, graduation outcomes, outreach and diversity, and perception. Overall national rating: universities, engineering, college, medical, management, pharmacy, law, architecture, dental, and research are among the best institutions listed by NIRF. So, the source of this news is The Hindu of 16th December 2021, page number 3. So, the next topic in news is about the Mughal administration. So it is from GS paper 3 and topic is Indian culture. So many aspects of the Sultanate and Sher Shah's administrative systems were retained by the Mughals. Under Sher Shah, administrative entities such as the Parganas, group of villages, Sarkars, group of Parganas, and groups of Sarkars similar to Subas or provinces were grouped together and assigned to certain posts. The Mughals established the Suba, a new territorial entity. Akbar split the Mughal Empire into 12 regions or Subas. The Mughals also established the Jagir and Mansab systems of government. So, system of Mansabdari. Every officer was given a rank under this system. Mansab. For nobles, the lowest rank was 10 and the highest was 5,000. Royal blooded princes were given even higher honors. The ranks were split into two categories: Zat and Savar. The word Zat means personal and it refers to a person's personal status. A person's Savar rank denoted the number of cavalrymen they were obligated to maintain. Every Savar were required to keep at least two horses. The Mansab rank was not passed down through the generations. All promotions and appointments, as well as dismissals, were recorded. The emperor himself made them. So, system of land revenue. In his government, Akbar experimented with revenue. The Mughal revenue system was built on the policies of Alauddin Khilji and Sher Shah Suri. Raja Todarmal, the revenue minister, overhauled the entire land revenue system in 1581. Zabti or Bandobast was the name given to this system. So the land was surveyed and classed using this system based on soil fertility as follows. Every year the polage was cultivated. Once in every 2 years there was a paroti. Once every 3 to 4 years there was chachar. Banjar at least once in every 5 years. So the source of this news is The Hindu of 16th December 2021, page number 3. So the next topic in news is details of the Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sinchai Yojana. So it is from GS paper 2 and topic is government policies and interventions. So about the PMKSY scheme. The PMKSY is a 2015 launched centrally sponsored scheme, core scheme. The proportion of center to states will be 75% to 25%. The ratio will be 90:10 in the northeastern region and hilly states. Its goals are to bring irrigation investments closer together at the field level and to increase the amount of land that can be cultivated with reliable irrigation, Har Khet Ko Pani, to increase the implementation of precision irrigation and other water saving technology to improve on farm water usage efficiency and reduce water waste, more crop per drop, exploring the viability of reusing treated municipal based water for peri-urban agriculture and attracting more private investment in a precision irrigation system to improve aquifer recharge and implement sustainable water conservation techniques. Water budgeting is done for all sectors, including home, agricultural, and industry, to ensure a full and holistic picture of the entire water cycle. It is created by combining existing plans, Ministry of Water Resources, River Development, and Ganga Rejuvenation's Accelerated Irrigation Benefit Program AIBP, Department of Land Resources, Ministry of Rural Development's Integrated Watershed Management Program IWMP, Department of Agriculture and Corporation's On-Farm Water Management implementation through the State Irrigation Plan and the District Irrigation Plan. Decentralized implementation is possible. So source of this news is The Hindu of 16th December 2021, page number 8. So the next topic in news is details of the anti-conversion bill. So it is from GS paper 2 and topic is government policies and interventions. So background, the Freedom to Religion Bill 2020 was approved recently as an ordinance by the Madhya Pradesh cabinet. Similar legislations have previously been approved in Uttar Pradesh and Himachal Pradesh. What do they have in common? The declaration of such marriages as null and void and the criminalization of conversions performed without the state's prior sanction are similar features of all the three statutes. Differences: they differ in terms of the severity of the punishment and who bears the responsibility of proving that a conversion is legal. Previous notice: for a conversion to be valid, the MP law needs a 60-day prior statement of the intention to convert to the district magistrate, after which a couple of different religions can be legally married. The Uttar Pradesh Prohibition of Unlawful Conversion of Religious Ordinance 2020 demands a 60-day notice as well as a police investigation to determine the true intention behind the conversion. The Himachal Pradesh Freedom of Religion Act 2019, which took effect last week, mandates a 30-day declaration of intention to convert prior to conversion. So who can look into it? The MP law. According to section 4 of the MP law, a police officer cannot conduct an investigation unless the person converted or the person's parents or siblings file a formal complaint. Under the legislation, no police official below the rank of sub-inspector can investigate a crime. According to Himachal Pradesh's law, no prosecution can begin without the approval of a subdivisional magistrate or a higher ranking officer. The UP law allows the same people to submit a complaint as the MP statute. The burden of proof is on the plaintiff. The burden of proof for showing that the conversion was done without compulsion or illegality is placed on the person who was converted under the MP law. A comparable clause exists in Himachal legislation. The UP law goes much further, shifting the burden of proof from the individual to those who caused or facilitated the conversion. So the source of the news is The Hindu of 16th December 2021, page number 4. So thanks a lot for watching the analysis video. Have a nice day.